Hi, everyone. My name is Jen Gross. I am the Midwest Regional Director for the University of Denver. We are so excited that you are here joining us today. Today, we have two wonderful faculty members who are going to pop on here. So I'm going to invite them on screen right now. And I will go over a little bit of introductions here, but also I want to let you know that this is an opportunity for you to ask us questions. We are with media, film, and journalism today. So if that's what you're looking for, you're in the right spot. As a student or parent, you might have some questions, so feel free to use the Q&A button on your screen to ask any of those questions. I'm going to be in the background helping answer anything that's not related to our academic area. But we're here to help you get a better understanding of DU as well as the program today. Also, there is a chat that you're not able to participate in, but you can actually copy any of the links that we put in there. So keep an eye on that chat for anything that might pop up for connections or something that we've talked about during the session here. So we have roughly about 30 minutes with you. So we want to provide you some great information and some time to ask questions. So I am going to turn it over to our film, media, and journalism department, and we'll let it start with Darrigan. I'm going to hide in the background, but again, feel free to use that Q&A section at any time to ask any questions. And we also have closed captioning, and then I will come back on and provide a little additional information at the end. Thank you so much. And Darrigan, I'll let you take it away.
Hi, everybody. My name is Darrigan Silver. I have the great pleasure of being the chair of the Department of Media, Film, and Journalism Studies. I've been at the University of Denver going on about 16 years now. My areas of expertise are media law, First Amendment law, and internet law. I teach both graduate and undergraduate students across all of our majors. As Dr. DiCavarolo will explain in a minute, we do have 4 undergraduate majors. But we're going to try to do about a 15-minute presentation to kind of give you a general overview of our department and what to expect in our department. And then we would love to have your questions. Both of us are really as much interested in what you want to know about us. And so we'd be happy to take your questions. If you'd like to drop them into the chat while the presentation is going on, we'll do our best to answer them. But if we don't get to them during the chat, we will get to them at the end for sure. And now it's my great pleasure to introduce my my very valued colleague, Dr. Lauren DiCavarolo, who will do our presentation this evening.
Lauren, you are muted.
Novice mistake. Thank you, Jen. Good evening. My name is Dr. Lauren DiCarvalho. I'm an associate professor in the department. I'm also the director of undergraduate studies. My areas of expertise are feminist media studies. Specifically, I look at representations of incarcerated women on screen. I've worked with women inmates off screen as well. And I also am very well versed and have expertise in film theory and criticism. So as Darrigan was saying, we have 4 different majors for our departments in terms of undergraduate majors. We're very unique in that we offer 4 different ones. A lot of departments do not offer as many. And so our different majors are media studies, film studies and production, journalism studies, StratCom, and we also offer a minor that's also in media, film, and journalism studies. And these are our current numbers to date in terms of how many students we have under each media or each degree. And for our majors, students need to complete 40 credit hours toward each of our majors. And if they're doing a minor, they need to complete 20 credit hours. So at the heart of our teaching, our pedagogy, our research, scholarship, everything that we like to convey to our students is really about the importance of storytelling and information, and really conveying that it's so important to understand who's telling a story, how they're telling a story, what's that narrative, how is it being spread, whose perspectives are included, are omitted, really to just try to understand different angles of a story and how to convey that information to audiences. And so one of the things we do in our department is we offer a lot of unique opportunities, especially to hear from experts in industries. And so an example I've included here is when I invited the head screenwriter for Spike Lee's BlacKkKlansman. It's a 2018 film. To campus, and he gave a special screening of BlacKkKlansman, and he also gave a master class to students, MFJS students. We also invited other students from across campus for that opportunity to really talk about, what goes into making a film, particularly in terms of screenwriting aspect as well. And I always joke I got very lucky because by the time he came to campus, he won both a BAFTA and an Oscar that year for his role. And so in terms of our overall courses that we offer, every single course that we teach to our students, we pride ourselves on having 5 different competencies that we like to convey and include. And so those are really about helping students foster critical thinking skills, really developing their practices, tools, and technologies needed for inclusive storytelling, including a wide range of global perspectives. So always reminding our students things don't just happen on a local level or a national level, but more on a global level. Really incorporating opportunities for students to conduct original research and scholarship to get their feet wet in terms of really trying to understand, taking the information we give them, synthesizing that material, and then offering original scholarship back to academia. And then, as always, we like to really include a lot of inclusive perspectives. So we're really about justice, equity, diversity, and inclusion. In terms of our overall faculty, we have 15 tenure and tenure track faculty. And these, I've just included a list of our specializations, anywhere from global and multicultural campaigns to, again, looking at what I do is representation of incarcerated women in mainstream media, to looking at how the everyday lives of low-wage immigrant workers are impacted by media, specifically mobile phones. Looking at participatory politics and how youth voices in journalism can be impacted, and also looking at media law and effects. And so these are just some of our specializations that I've included here. In terms of our overall MFJS community, we are housed in a building one block south of campus, and it's a great space because we have all of our own students in our building. And we really pride ourselves on offering smaller classes to students. So anywhere from 10, including now, I have about 9 students in the class I'm teaching this quarter, to upwards to 30 students, which is very small, especially for someone like me. At my last institution, I taught a class of 200 people, and it's very different in terms of how you get more intimacy with students, really one-on-one bonding and developing greater opportunities for learning, right? Especially with like essays and stuff like that you can include in smaller classes. In terms of our advising, we have a core team of 4 advisors. They are comprised of 4 faculty members. Essentially what happens is we have 1 faculty member per major. So I handle the film studies and production major, and I advise all major advisees under that major. And then 3 of my colleagues take on the roles of advisor for Stratcom, journalism, and media studies. We like to keep our students in the loop. So we have weekly announcements on Mondays where our staff will give out a newsletter that tells different events, opportunities that students can come participatory on, and they can know what's also happening, staying in tune with our social media pages that same staff person also updates regularly, and they're great about doing so. 2 of our undergraduate clubs that we offer are DU Film Production Club, where students can get their feet wet with equipment rental, and they do every part of production aspect. So they write their own stories, they cast their members and staff and actors in different roles behind the scenes. They also film, edit. Oftentimes they like to make weekend trips out of it and go out to the mountains and film that way. And so it's a really great opportunity for them to start. This is particularly more geared toward intro level students, so they can just kind of get started into the major, especially if they're doing film studies and production. We also offer the DU Film Lovers Society, which is anyone across campus can come and they can watch films together and they can critique films together and just engage in really critical dialogues about what they're watching. They do that about once or twice a month. Every single major, so all 4 of our majors have capstone courses that in order to graduate, they need to take usually 2 courses to complete in the winter and spring quarters. And so these will just demonstrate their proficiency in those majors. We have Rocky Mountain Reverb. If you want to talk a little bit about that, Darrigan.
Sure. Rocky Mountain Reverb is a podcast that was started by Dr. Carlos Jimenez. One of the things that we have found is both major and non-major students at DU are incredibly interested in podcasting. So excuse me, we recently built a couple of podcasting studios in our building. And we've had a lot of kids who are very interested in their in producing podcasting stories. We teach a class that is called audio documentaries, which is incredibly popular. It's either taught by Dr. Carlos Jimenez or Dr. Runchao Liu. We actually offer it twice a year. It is so popular. And so it's been really, really successful in letting students tell their own stories. You know, one of the things that we're really interested in is helping media producers find their voice. I think one of the things that Lauren was talking about was really encouraging people to have unique voices and to really explore what their contribution to media is going to be, as opposed to what sort of the mainstream contribution to media wants you to be. And Rocky Mountain Reverb is a great chance to do that.
Thanks, Darrigan. So we also have the DU Clarion, which is the student newspaper for all of University of Denver. That's a great opportunity for journalism studies majors to get involved with. We have DU Media, which is a platform that showcases the student work that is created in any of our production classes, whether it's from a StratCom perspective, journalism perspective, media studies, or a film studies lens. And so that's a great platform. And I believe that is helmed by Dr. Kareem El Damanhouri and Dr. Christoph Heinrich Demont. Is that correct?
That's correct. So that was the brainchild of Kareem. Kareem is a multimedia producer for CNN International, in addition to being just a tremendous academic. He sort of combines both the theoretical. He's written 2 books in his very early academic career, which is quite impressive at this stage. But he also still works for CNN International. And so he brings that real world skill set to class every day. He has started the DU Media Project. He also started a very interesting class, which I was putting in the chat a little bit earlier. Kareem started a partnership with Rocky Mountain PBS, where Rocky Mountain PBS actually gets a first look deal at our journalism students' capstone projects. Lauren, I think, is going to talk a little bit about the capstone project in a little bit, but all of our students across all 4 majors have to do a capstone project. For the journalism students, their mini documentaries, we have a first look deal with Rocky Mountain PBS that they sort of get to look at the material first and decide if they want to publish it. So Kareem has been really innovative in both the DU Media and the journalism capstone class.
Thanks, Darrigan. And so the last one we have here is Project DU Film. This was started by my colleague, Dr. Sheila Schroeder, who is senior film faculty in our department. And it's basically an organization that really strives to change what's happening behind the scenes in making film that way it can be reflected on screen as well. And so students have an opportunity, usually at the higher status level. So juniors and seniors can apply to take part in a short film she might be working on, or a feature-length film that she might be working on, and they can really get their hands, even go deeper in terms of the academic profession for filmmaking in that respect. It's a great opportunity for students. We also have, we really pride ourselves, we offer a lot of technology and resources for our students. So depending on what their majors are, they might need certain cameras or certain equipments, and they can check this out online via what is known as our tech shop. It's housed in our building, and students can rent equipment online, and then they can go in person to pick it up while either before or after their classes, or just any time that they're in the building. And we're constantly making sure that we update our equipment so we can stay recent. And so this is just a great opportunity for them. As I mentioned earlier, we like to have a lot of engaging opportunities for students where they can meet experts from the field. And so I already told you about Kevin Wilmot, who was the head screenwriter for BlacKkKlansman. More recently, we hosted, I believe this was last week, an alumni meet and greet with film and television producer William Sherrick, who does a lot of horror films. So if you're a horror film fan, he might have produced one of the films that you've seen, as well as film and television director Peter Lauer, who has directed TV shows, anything from the likes of Gilmore Girls to Scrubs to, as most recently, Emily in Paris on Netflix. And fun fact, he is actually teaching for our department both this quarter and next. He's our resident professor of practice. And so students are currently taking a directing class with him, which is a great opportunity. Also last week, we had alumna Amy Niesenson visit campus to share her experience with MFJS students about her role on being regional VP or vice president for Effective, which is the media sales division of Comcast. So it was a great opportunity for students to get up close and personal and really engage with experts. For most of our majors, with the exception of media studies, the other three majors require an internship. And so they can work with our director of internships, Dr. Rachel Lieberman, to help secure an internship. She's always available, a really great resource. And this has been a really great opportunity for students to get their foot in the door. A lot of students might start as an internship, and then once they graduate, turn it into a paid position after. Further paid if it's already paid as an internship. Most are not, unfortunately. Some of our recent internships in general are The Tonight Show starring Jimmy Fallon, The Denver Post, Ski Magazine, Smokehouse Pictures, DU Athletics, The Nature Conservancy, KRIA, the Icelandic Constitutional Archive, DaVita Kidney Care, Colorado Music Hall of Fame, Special Olympics Colorado. I've also included the most recent internships for this quarter alone. We have students doing internships at Denver Anti-Tracking Alliance, DU Marketing and Communications, DU Health Promotion, DU Athletics Marketing and Advertising, DU Media, Stoked LA, Denver Life Magazine, Denver Metro Caring, which is a great nonprofit here in Denver, American Red Cross of Colorado and Wyoming, another great nonprofit, and Blank Collective Films, which does a lot of outdoor sports documentaries and promotion. In terms of employment, did you want to talk about this one a little bit, Darrigan?
I'd love to, Lauren. So we've had a great deal of success. One of the things, and Jen probably has some fancy admission statistics she can throw in the chat, but I believe the last time I checked into it, somewhere around 90% of our students prior to graduating have either been accepted to graduate school or are gainfully employed. We've had a lot of success placing students in a variety of situations. One of the things that we really sort of emphasize, however, is that we want students to find their passion and to follow their passion, both while they're at DU and after DU. So a lot of media programs that you may be looking at may really, really emphasize the media jobs and what it is their students are doing. And we'll talk to you about, you have to go into media, and that's what we're focused on. We certainly are very proud of our graduates who go on to media. As you can see, we have students who are currently working at NBC Universal. We had a student who went through the famous PAGE program at NBC Universal. We've had students work for Jimmy Fallon, Vail Resorts. We have a student who is currently a reporter at the Fox television station here in Denver. But we also have students who go on and do things that are outside of media, and that's perfectly fine with us. What we really want is we want students to have a skill set that allows them to explore different options out there. I was sort of joking before the seminar started that there's a cliche that we want to train students for the jobs that exist, but we want to train them for the jobs that don't exist yet. We want people to have a critical thinking skill set and media making skill set that they can take into any industry. More and more, your generation, for your students out there, or your kids' generation, for the parents out there, communicate via a visual medium, and more jobs require you to communicate via visual medium. I don't have to tell you how popular Instagram is, or TikTok, or Snap. If someone can explain Snap to me and the appeal of Snap, I'd greatly appreciate that. I ask my undergraduates that all the time to explain Snap to me, and I still don't get it. Instagram, I like Instagram a lot. I put a lot of food pictures on Instagram. We can talk about that later. But what we really try to do is we give you a critical skill set, both in media making and in media interpretation. Because more and more, with the amount of information that is out there, it becomes critical for people to be informed consumers of information. And that's another thing we really pride ourselves on.
Great. Last but not least, some additional things I want to highlight about our department. We really pride ourselves on experiential learning experiences for students, preparing students like yourselves, or if you're the parents, your children, for a variety of professions, as Darrigan had said before, either in grad school or in the field itself. We do portfolio development throughout their 4 years here, and we primarily do that through all different classes, but we like to really hone in on that in our capstone courses, which offer projects that they can accumulate by the end of their stay here. And they complete that through 2 quarters. So for the film studies and production major, they have the option to take 2 courses back to back in either narrative filmmaking or documentary filmmaking. They'll work with peers to develop a film from scratch, basically, and they'll write it, film it, edit it, etc. We also do showcases at the end of the year that really showcase student work as well. And we get together, we have snacks, beverages, and really just have a great community vibe to our department. And last but not least, community-based learning opportunities as well. So some of our colleagues take students into either downtown Denver. If they're working with different nonprofits, they might do that as well. It's just a great opportunity for students to get exposure. And that's all I have from my end at this point. Anything you wanted to add before we go to questions, Darrigan?
No, I think, thank you very much. Lauren, you did a fantastic job, as I knew you would. I think that we would just really like to hear from you guys. We have about 7 answered questions. So if you go to the Q&A section, if you pull up the Q&A section on Zoom, you can sort of see the answers that Jen and I have been putting in there as we go along. But we're more than happy to answer any questions you want to drop in there. We can sort of switch over and answer them live now. I think that might be more interesting than just reading what I am typing. So we have I'm not into politics or activism, but want to tell non-biased stories in journalism. Will the program and faculty diversity help me with this goal? Ooh, great question. Great question. We really pride ourselves in, I could give a lecture about objectivity, and does objectivity even exist? And where did it come from in the political economic model of journalism? Why is that even a goal? But I won't bore you by going into that lecture. But one of the things that we try to do is really focus on the ability to understand how non-traditional voices in media, journalism, film, etc., shape the narrative and shape the discussion, and how important it is to have non-traditional filmmakers and non-traditional journalists. And so we do a lot of programs that invite Indigenous journalists back to campus to talk about things. We do a lot of work in areas about the harm. We try to be very honest about the harm that journalism and media has sometimes caused to underrepresented populations. And we try to bring every class. We have a requirement in our department, which is called JEDI, Justice, Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion. And there are certain classes that sort of check that box of of a Jedi course, and you have to take at least one Jedi course while you're in our department. But probably more important than that, I think, is that we try to infuse those sort of questions and that sort of critical thinking across all of our classes. So it's not like you're going to take one class and check that box and never hear about these issues again. So for example, I teach a class on media law, and one of the things we talk about is how does society and power structures and privilege shape the laws? Why are the laws the way that they are? Well, they don't just happen. They happen for a reason. And so we tie that into a class that may not necessarily be a quote unquote Jedi class, but certainly addresses a lot of those issues. Lauren, this sort of hits on your area of research probably more than mine. Lauren is a nationally renowned feminist media scholar and a critical studies scholar of media. She not only is really well published in the area, but she actually is called upon quite frequently to review works for very prestigious journals in this area. So Lauren, do you want to kind of take a shot at that question?
Sure. Let me see. So yeah, even in all the classes, basically, the biggest thing we pride ourselves is always asking ourselves and each other to question really all about ideological messaging, whether it's coming from films, television, campaigns, right, in the Stratcom sphere, or even in journalism, right? And I know in particular, I can speak to my classes. My undergrad is an undergrad degree is actually in journalism. And so I always make sure that I deconstruct everything with my students and we look at all different angles. And I always tell my students context is key, right? But what isn't being shown or heard is just as important as what is being shown or heard. And it's really about making sure that there's a multitude inclusivity of perspectives heard.
All right, so we have another one here that I think is probably better set up for a, because it's so wide ranging. If I started typing, I would still be here and we're running out of time. So Lauren, I'm going to shoot this to you because you actually were involved in our, in one of our learning communities. And the question is, does DU or your department have any supports for new students, freshmen, to help set kids up for success?
Yes.
And we could be here for quite a while, but why don't you hit some of the key ones?
Yes. So there are so many different ways to get involved at DU as an undergrad. The biggest ways that people can do it either through athletics or a club. There's so many different clubs. I think the biggest ones on campus are, I think, the Sierra Nevada Club. D&D is very big as well, a whole range of clubs. Another way is through what's known as living and learning communities. As a first-year student, you can apply to be in a living and learning community. And what this means is that you'll be housed with students on a floor or multiple of floors that are interested in the same thing you're interested in. So this might be, for instance, I was formerly the director of the social justice living and learning community on campus. And so my students were very much interested in activism and doing a lot in terms of social inequities. And, you know, we kind of ran the gamut of, they had to do community-based learning at nonprofits. So I worked with Metro Caring Denver. I worked with The Gathering Place, which is a great daytime shelter for women and members of the trans community here in Denver. They had a bunch of different opportunities that they can get their feet wet. And they also took classes with me. So I taught them classes. They take one class per quarter, basically, and it's one day a week, and we get together. We also did a lot of outside events. So I took them to Meow Wolf Denver. Since my topic of social justice is very heavy, we talked a lot about a lot of heavy issues. I let my students decide whether they wanted our excursions to be justice oriented or more kind of outside the purview, although I argued to them that everything is social justice oriented, and I kind of deconstructed Meow Wolf if they wanted to hear it or not. And so we also did, what else did we do? We did so many different events. We did a picnic together in Wash Park. We did a lot of dinners. We did movie night when we went downtown and went to movie together. We did just a lot of different opportunities. And this was a really great way to especially if you're kind of nervous about making friends, if you're maybe out of state or not new to Denver, or if you're new to Denver, this is a great way to kind of get your feet wet in a community that's already interested in things you're interested in, right? And so there's a lot of different ones that you can apply to. And I don't see it anymore on my end, but there was a question about, are there specific required courses for film? I don't know if that was answered in the box or not. Otherwise, I can answer that quickly.
Why don't you take that one? I basically said yes, but they're
Okay.
impossible to find on the website because they redesigned our website. And the one thing students really want to know, they took off our website. But why don't you go ahead and answer that one in person?
Okay. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, cool. All right, so for that one, so we have what's known as major progress reports. And so every quarter you meet with your major advisor and we go through this progress report to see how you're doing, to make sure you're on track to graduate in the 4 years that you're supposed to, or if you want to graduate earlier, we can kind of work that as well. And so what this happens is it's broken up by major. And so students, if you're entering the 2023, 2024, so the current academic year, you'll go to this coursework plan, and I might have to stop sharing so it can open. Is that right? How does that work? 1 second. Yeah. Okay, let me share again. And so as you can see, this is for film studies and production. So there are 3 classes that we consider foundational classes that every FSP major has to take. So you have to take all 3 of those. Then we have, as Derrick was talking about, JEDI, which is Justice, Equity, Diversity, Inclusion, and Internationalization. So you have to take one of the courses offered here. It's kind of like choose your own adventure in terms of what you're interested in. And then you have to take one film history course where you carry out history research, basically. And then the capstone course I was talking about, there are 2 classes, either in narrative filmmaking or documentary filmmaking, and they're alternate years, so we have to plan accordingly for that. You're required to take an internship. And then you have the last of yours are what's known as major electives, and you have to choose from 3 out of the list here. And so there's a lot of different options. So aside from the 3 foundational courses that are required, the rest is pretty much choose your own adventure in terms of really kind of tailoring it to what interests you. So the reason we do this is because some students are more interested in production, some students are more interested in theory and criticism, some like a mix of both. And so we really leave it on the student to decide for themselves. And we have that for each of the majors as well, in terms of the progress report.
And I think you could tell Lauren and I are both pretty passionate about DU and about what we do and about working with our students. And so we could probably be here for a good amount of time, but we are technically out of time. So if you have like one or 2 more questions you want to drop in the chat, just real quick. But I think Jen's about to give us the hook and tell us we need to stop talking about what we love to talk about. And we need to let you all go on with your evenings. I know that if you're on the East Coast, it's now 9 o'clock, which is pretty close to my bedtime. Jen, is there anything that you want to finish up with about admissions or about University of Denver? And I'll look for the chat. If you have anything, any more questions, please drop them in and I'll just answer them real quick.
Yes, thank you so much, Darrigan and Lauren. What a great presentation and providing some wonderful information tonight for our students and our families. This has been recorded. It will be available, I believe, early February on we'll put it on our visit page so you can link to anything that you're interested in. And if you want to go ahead and catch it again, or if your parents want to see what you were watching, you could do that. Also, if you check in the webinar chat, there are 2 links. There's a link to the media, film, and journalism degrees, and then also a link to contact your admissions counselor. We do have a couple of admitted student open houses coming up, one in March and one in April on a couple of different weekends. So keep your eyes open for that if you're an admitted student, and you're welcome to come visit us anytime. We appreciate you taking time tonight and visiting with us and learning more about the University of Denver. And we hope that we were able to answer all your questions. So thank you so much. Darrigan and Lauren, fantastic job. Thank you.
Yeah, I'll just finish by saying that I know that this is a stressful time. I have a daughter who's senior at the University of Texas, Austin, and I have a son who is a senior in high school who is also going through this process. So trust in your instincts. There are no wrong decisions. I'm sure if you've got into the University of Denver, then you're a good student and you have a bright future. The key is just picking the program that is the right fit for you. And best of luck as you look. And we know that you have choices of what to do on your evenings. And so we're glad that you chose us.
Thanks again. We'll give you a few more seconds to catch any of those links in the chat, and have a fantastic evening, and reach out again if you have additional questions. Thanks. Bye-bye.
Thank you.